Nobody woke up one morning in 2026 and said, "Wow, Malaysia is running the show now." That's the scary part. Because while the world was busy shouting, protesting, flexing, and collapsing in public, Malaysia was quietly moving pieces behind the scenes. No drama. No chest thumping. No headlines screaming for attention. And yet today, if you follow the money, the supply chains, the diplomacy, and the digital infrastructure, you keep running into the same country again and again. Let me ask you something before we go any further. How does a nation become powerful without looking powerful? That question is the key to understanding how Malaysia became the silent kingmaker in 2026. Most people think power looks loud. Military parades. Sanctions. Trade wars. Angry speeches at global summits. But real power, the kind that actually decides outcomes, often looks boring. It looks stable. Predictable. Trustworthy. And that's exactly the image Malaysia spent years building while others were busy tearing theirs down. Here's the twist most analysts missed. Malaysia didn't try to beat the giants at their own game. It simply positioned itself so the giants needed it. Think about global trade for a second. After years of supply chain chaos, companies were exhausted. They didn't want cheap anymore. They wanted reliable. They wanted a place that wouldn't suddenly change rules overnight, wouldn't get dragged into every geopolitical fight, and wouldn't shut down at the first sign of trouble. So ask yourself this. If you were running a trillion-dollar supply chain in 2026, where would you put your trust? Malaysia quietly became that answer. Not because it screamed, "Pick us," but because it stayed calm when others panicked. While major powers were busy weaponizing trade, Malaysia leaned into neutrality. While others made enemies, Malaysia made options. It strengthened ties with China without burning bridges with the West. It welcomed investment without surrendering sovereignty. That balancing act isn't flashy, but it's incredibly rare, and incredibly valuable. Here's where things get interesting. Malaysia didn't just become a manufacturing alternative. It became a connector. A bridge between East and West, Muslim and non-Muslim economies, emerging markets and developed systems. When tensions rose elsewhere, deals quietly moved through Kuala Lumpur, Penang, and Johor. Pause for a second and think about this. Who usually wins in a fight? The loudest person, or the one everyone still trusts at the end? Now layer technology onto this picture. Malaysia didn't chase every tech hype wave. It focused on the unglamorous stuff: semiconductors, data centers, logistics tech, fintech regulation. By 2026, that patience paid off. When AI systems, cloud services, and smart manufacturing needed stable regional hubs, Malaysia was already there, already compliant, already trusted. And here's the proud part many Malaysians underestimate. This wasn't luck. This was policy discipline mixed with cultural instinct. Malaysia's multicultural society has always been about coexistence, compromise, and quiet negotiation. Those same social skills scaled up to diplomacy and economics. The country knows how to manage differences without turning everything into a public fight. In a fractured world, that became a superpower. Quick check-in with you. Did you expect culture to play a role in geopolitics? Now let's talk about money, because power always leaves a financial footprint. By 2026, global investors were tired of volatility. Malaysia offered something rare: moderate growth with low drama. Islamic finance, ESG-aligned investments, and regional trade financing quietly expanded. Malaysia didn't become the biggest financial center, it became the most comfortable one for long-term players. And comfort, in uncertain times, is priceless. Another twist. Malaysia never tried to replace anyone. It simply filled gaps others created themselves. When some countries became too risky, Malaysia became the backup. When others became too expensive, Malaysia became the alternative. When others became politically unpredictable, Malaysia became the safe bet. Let me ask you something honest. Would you rather be the hero everyone argues about, or the quiet decision-maker everyone relies on? That's the kingmaker position. Diplomatically, Malaysia leaned into ASEAN not as a megaphone, but as a network. Instead of dominating, it coordinated. Instead of leading from the front, it shaped consensus from the middle. In 2026, that meant when regional decisions were made, Malaysia's fingerprints were everywhere, even if its name wasn't on the headline. And that's what scares some bigger powers. Because you can sanction a loud rival. You can isolate an aggressive one. But how do you attack a country everyone depends on? Another small but powerful move, Malaysia invested heavily in human capital. Skilled workers, bilingual professionals, tech-savvy youth, and globally educated talent quietly raised the country's value. Not as cheap labor, but as smart labor. The kind that runs systems, not just factories. Be honest for a second. How many countries can say they upgraded their workforce without burning social stability? Malaysia did. And here's the emotional part, the part that should make you proud if you're Malaysian or connected to the region. Malaysia didn't sell its soul to get here. It didn't erase its identity. It didn't copy anyone blindly. It modernized while staying recognizably Malaysian: food culture, religious balance, community life, and a sense of calm resilience that outsiders often underestimate. By 2026, that authenticity became an asset. Because in a world full of noise, people trust what feels grounded. Now zoom out and look at the big picture. Malaysia didn't become a king. It became the one who decides which king succeeds. Supply chains. Malaysia matters. Regional diplomacy. Malaysia matters. Tech infrastructure. Malaysia matters. Financial flows. Malaysia matters. And yet most global audiences still don't see it clearly, which might be the smartest part of all. So here's a question worth leaving in the comments. Is the future of power loud, or quietly unavoidable? If this perspective surprised you even a little, you already understand why Malaysia's rise didn't come with fireworks, it came with leverage. And maybe that's the lesson the world is slowly learning in 2026. The strongest players don't always sit on the throne. Sometimes, they decide who gets to sit there at all.